Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on a React application called the employee directory. So this one is basically a filter application where you're given a whole set of data with employees or users, and you're able to filter through the department, the position. You have the select option filter, and then you can search by, you can do all that to the name. So let's get started. Okay, so now we're in our IDE, VS Code, whichever one you're using, and we're just gonna start by making a directory, and our directory is gonna be called directory. It's also gonna be called directory, but it's gonna be called directory YouTube. Clear. Now we can CD into it, so CD into directory YouTube. Clear. And now we want to create the app, so it's going to be npx create react app, and we're going to call this client, and we're just going to wait for this to initialize, well, to install. Okay, so now that we have our client side created, we're just going to open a folder, and we're just going to open this, and here we are. So what we can do from here is now import, let's cd into client, and we're going to import npm import install, sorry, we're going to install Axios, and let's just do Axios for the time being. So we're going to install Axios, and we're going to go ahead and install Tailwind CSS. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that off screen and see you guys once it's done installing. So now that we have Tailwind installed, as you can see here, it's been you can see that it's been installed here. What we're going to do is just start up the project. So npm run start. So now that we have our app running here, let's just go ahead and clean up some of those files in our VS Code. So we're not going to be using app test, so we can go ahead and delete that. We don't need the logo. We'll just go ahead and delete that file. Report, we don't need that. The setup, we do not need that. So we only need the CSS, app.js, index.css, index.js. Let's just come over here and clear all this out. Index.css is fine. And here we're just going to take it from header to header. Take that out, and we do not need class name. We go ahead and take out this logo. Actually, let's just do we need app CSS? Actually, we do not need app.css, so let's just delete that, move to trash, and let's clear all this out. So as you can see, it's compiled successfully. So in our web browser, it should be working just fine. So let's just check up on that. Let's minimize this, and there we go. So let's see if it works. So let's say h1 hello world. And there we go. Yeah, everything works just fine. So before we begin, let's just create a folder here. It's going to be our context folder. So we're just going to name it context. And within context, we're going to add a new file. And it's going to be called auth context.jsx. And here, all we're going to say is import create context, and it's going to auto import from React. And now we want to say export const context, and it's going to equal create context, and just make sure there's an object in there, and we're good. So we'll come back to this later. We just need this piece of information there now, so we don't have to do it later. Actually, what this is going to do is this is going to allow us pass state variables throughout our whole application. So we're just setting that up for right now before we do anything else. So just so it doesn't become a hassle later. Okay, so now that we have this, what we can do now is come to sources, and we're going to create a folder called components. Components, hopefully I spelled that, components, yep. And now within components, we're going to have the header.jsx, we're gonna have the body.jsx, header, body, and yeah, let's just keep it at those two right now. So within header, we're gonna say RAFCE, and now we're gonna take header, and we're gonna import it here, header. Cool, as you can see, it imported. And now we're gonna import the body also. Let's make sure. Did we save this? Oh, RAFCE, save that, and then come back to app.js. And we're gonna say body. Cool, and as you can see, it says it right there. So in the header, we're gonna start off with the header. And if we look at this, this is our header, just the employee directory and these fields. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over to the header component. Right over here. So we're gonna say div class name is width full, height full. And then we're gonna say h1 class name is gonna be text for vmin, text center, text black, and padding 4. So what's going to be in it is going to say employee directory. Cool. So that's pretty much what we have here. So we're just redoing the same thing. Shift, just make this look better. There we go. Let's go back here. Cool. And then after that, let's actually do this. Let's enclose everything, encase everything with this. Cool. So now we're going to have another div. And with this div, we're going to say input, and the class name is going to be width full, height full, border rounded, what is going on right now? Border rounded. So it's going to be border rounded. Oh, that's why, because it's just border rounded, and then it's going to be medium. And we're going to say background will be transparent. So let's just click on that. And we're going to give it a padding of 3. We don't want that. We're just going to say slash. Cool. So this is what it's going to look like right now, but that's not what we want. So we're just going to keep going now. So right now we're going to say placeholder, and our placeholder is going to be department. Okay, and we're going to say, let's just leave it at that for right now. So after that, we're going to say, and that's going to be its own div. So now we're going to have another div that says div class name, padding left 1. Let's just close that div. And within this div, we're going to say select, wait, what was, we have position. Okay. So we have that, and now we're going to have position. So before we put the position, actually, let's just come over here and give this width full, because we just want to fix this part. So width full, height full, padding 5, medium, we're going to say flex, justify center, and then put this in its own div. We're just going to take this and plug it in there. So this div's here, this div should be over here. Cool. So as you can see, now it's just one. So now we can put now we can put the position in there. So with this, we can now say input class name. It's pretty much going to be the same thing. So actually, to make this easier, let's just copy all this and paste it over here. Cool. So we're just gonna do that, and then we're just gonna change this to position. So that took way longer than it's supposed to, because we could just done that. Now what we have is the select option. So now we can choose to select. So I'm going to show you how to do this and this. So let's go ahead and just do that right now. So now we're going to say select, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to put the div in here, and within this div, we're going to say class name is PL1, and for this, we're going to have a select option. So select, and within this select, we're going to have a bunch of options, but let's give this some styling first. So we're going to say width full, height full, border rounded, medium, background transparent. So pretty much the same thing. So background transparent, pattern of 3. Yep. So as you can see, and we're going to say, so let's go to option, and this is where you're going to see like the option come up when you hit that tab. And so for option, we're going to say the first option is, it's only going to be 2 options this time. So the first option is going to be product. As you can see, it says product, and we're going to have another option, and this is going to be called human resources. Cool. So it says product, human resources. Yeah, so it's going to say those 2 for right now. So we're just going to leave it at that for right now. And then our actual search is what we're going to work on right now. So this is this. So let's come over here. And for this div, we're going to say class name, padding left 1, input class name, be width full, height full, border rounded, just basically the same thing we've been doing all day, background transparent, and a pattern of 3. We did not close. Cool. So as you can see, it says that there. And now we're just going to say placeholder. Our placeholder is going to be called employee name. There we go. And yeah, let's leave it as this for right now because we don't have any of the logic written out. So this is what our script and our styling looks like for right now. So what we're going to do is go back to app.js, and this is where we're going to start implementing some actual JavaScript logic. So what we want to do now is fetch our data. So that way we can actually insert the logic into our header and render our stuff into the body. So in order to fetch our data, we're going to be using Axios, which we already installed, and we're going to be using something called the use effect. So in order to fetch our data, we're going to say const fetch data is equal to async, because we're going to be using Axios. It's going to be asynchronous, and we're going to say try catch. Cool. And for our try catch, we're going to be saying const names is equal to await axios.get. And here's where we have to get our information. So where we get our information from is Sling slingacademy.com. So if you just type in Google Sling Academy employee JSON, user JSON, is it employee or user? So let's go employee. I believe it's employee. JSON data. Okay, so it's going to be the first one that pops up, and you're going to see the URL for it, and it's going to show you it's going to show you the JSON URL. So to get the JSON data, and this is what the data is going to look like. So what you could do is just go ahead. It's the same thing I had up here. I'm just going to close out of that one. You just go ahead and copy this and go right back to your project, and then just put that right there. So this is going to be a get method. So you're going to be getting data from here. And once you do that, you go ahead and just say console.log names.data. Names.data. Cool. And then for the error, what you want to say is console.error. And then we're just going to say error load in name data. And it's just going to say error. Cool. So now if there's an error, it's going to say error loaded name data with the error attached to it. Let's see, Axios. So we're just going to import Axios from Axios. Cool. So now to see if this actually, so before we do that, what we want to do is use effect. So we want to say upon loading of the screen of the, upon loading the page, we want this to fire. We want this fetch data to work. Fetch data. Cool. So it's compiled successfully. So if we go over to our inspect and go to console, as you can see, all our employees are showing. So these are all the employees we have. So that's how we know it's been, this fetch data is actually working. So where do we go from here? So now we want to incorporate something called the use effect. This is what's going to be holding our state variables. So we're going to say query, set query, and actually let's do this first. Let's just let's say name data and set name data. So this is in camel case, just so you're aware. So use state, and we're just going to have a string, an empty string, and then we're going to have something called loading. So loading and set loading, and you're going to see what this is being used for as we go along, and we're just going to set this to true. Cool. So now we want to hold, okay, it keeps calling it, that's why. So we want to hold basically this data within our name data variable. So what we're going to do is say set name data to equal name.data dot, it should be dot employees. So if we look over here within this object, employees is what has basically all the employee data in it. So we want to say dot employees, and our console log would be the same thing. Actually, our console log, let's just come over here, would just be console.log. So sorry, I keep stopping. So let's say console.log, and it's just going to be name data, because we're setting the name data to this. This should be names. So this should be names data. So that's all the data. So if I do this again, as you can see, that's the data. and that's all the data we're going to be needing. So for this set loading, what this is doing is, because it's asynchronous, this logic is asynchronous. What we want to do is, while it's gathering this information to render on our screen, we want a load in sign. So we want the user to know there's something happening, it just hasn't happened yet. So it's just going to say loading, and then once it loads, it's going to show us our data. So that's what this is. So right now it's saying our loading is set to true, but within here we're going to say set is loading to false. And then our logic that we're going to write later on is going to use this So we're also going to put this for the error. So set, is it set loading or set is loading? Set loading. Cool. So once our, we could just stop that. So once we're about to use that, you'll see how it further works. So now we want to pass this name data over to our component, over to our header component. And how do we do that? So we use something called the React Context API, the React Context API, which is what we created when we first started. So which is this? So the auth context. So in order to use that, we're going to be using context because that's what we exported, and we exported it, and this is what the variable context is pertains to. So this is how this is going to work. We're going to come over to where is it? Here it is. We're going to come over to our return, and within return we're going to say context. I don't think it's gonna auto import, so we got to import it manually. So we're going to say context from dot slash auth context. Cool. This is what we're going to be using, and we could just go ahead and comment that out so we don't keep calling that API. So now we have this imported, so now we can use it and say div over here. We're going to say context okay, so now we're going to say context dot provider value. So these are the values that we're going to be passing, and cool. So we're just going to take this part and plug it over there. Cool. So these values over here are what we're going to be passing. So the first one we're going to pass is loading and set loading, and then we're going to also pass name data and set name data. So now these components share these state variables. So if you come back over here, we also want to pass some more state variables, and we want to pass something called query set query is equal to use state, and that we want to pass const department set department is equal to use state, and the same thing. So we're going to pass const query department. Let's see, what else do we need? Let's look at our app. And position. We need position. Const position set position is equal to use state, and cool. Okay, so these state variables are going to pertain to these um, to these fields. So these are going to be the values pertaining to these fields. So as we go along, you'll see how we implement them. So this is so now we have to just pass them and say set query. We just got to pass them within this within this value. We got to pass these states within this context provider value. Let's see. Set query. What else did we have? We had department, and we had set department. So let's just do this so we can actually see what we're typing. Set department, and we had what else? Position. Position and set position. Awesome. So basically we're all done with this for right now. So we can just close that out. And now we can come over to our header. And within our header, in order to receive these values, what we got to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to say const query set query name data set name data. We're going to say position set position. What else did we have? Department set department is loading and set loading. Wait, did we have loading or is loading? Let's see. Loading set loading. So let's go over here. Loading and set loading. And let's just make sure we can actually see what we did. Cool. So const, and we're gonna say is equal to use context. So it's gonna import this, and it's gonna say use context, and then it's gonna import that. Cool. So now we can do this. Cool. All right, so now we have all these state variables in our header, and we can go ahead and use it. So what we want to do now is we're just going to slide all the way down to department, and for department, we're going to say on change, we want to say if there's an event, whenever there's an event, whenever there's a change, we're going to say event is equal to set department. So what's going on right now? There it is. Set department event.target.value. Cool. And now we want to say value is equal to department. And then we're going to do the same thing for position. We're just going to say on change, and our change is going to be the same thing. We're just going to change it to set position. Cool. And then our value is going to be position. Cool. Okay, so here for our select, we're going to make our select on change. Let's just do this. So we're just going to paste that in there again. But this time our select on change is going to be set. You know what? Let's give this a different name. So let's just for the sake of assigning a different name to things, let's just give it So instead of department, we're gonna say assignment. Yeah, let's just say set assignment. And we're gonna say, I just can't think of a better variable to use right now. So we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do the same thing here, set assignment and assignment. Cool. So we have to do the same thing in here and just assignment, set assignment. Okay, save that. What happened? Header 46. Okay, so here. So we're gonna say set assignment is equal to this, so we're all good. And now for that, the value is going to be assignment. Cool. So if we look over here, it says that, and we're gonna say option. We're just gonna call this position. So it still says position. So position, product, human resources. So let's just close this out. Oh, is it position or department? Yeah, it should be department. Department. And there you go. So department, either have the product or human resource department. Same thing goes over here. Cool. So now how do we tie everything in? Oh, okay. So we also forgot the load-in. And did we do position? Yeah, so we did department, position, assignment. Oh, employee name. We forgot all about employee name. So employee name is gonna have to do with query. So let's just come down here on change. This is gonna set query, and the value is query. And we just said query because that's what you're doing when you type in a name here. You're just kind of querying it. That's pretty much why I just called it query. And now what we can do is say, so this div pertains to that. This div. Just want to make sure I'm not. What's this div for? Over there. Cool. So now we can come here and put in body. And you will see a second one here. So what we're gonna do is take this body out of here because we don't need that. So body here, save, index.js. Where are we? Header. Just save that. Okay. So before doing this though, we're gonna say is loading. Not is load, just loading. Yeah, loading. And basically we have loading set to true right now, I guess, right? Yeah, it's set to false. So loading set to false. So where are we? So what this logic we're gonna write is gonna say if it's loading, meaning if loading is set to false, then we're gonna have h1 say loading. There we go. However, if where is it? It's supposed to be this way. Where is it? There we go. So if it's not loading, then we want to have, we're just going to put this in here, the body shown. And since we're going to also be passing data from the body here into the next, we're going to be passing data from the header into the body. we're going to be passing the name data. So we don't have that done right now. So once we have that, we're going to be passing that. So let's see. Did we do it already in here? Did we set the name data? Oh yeah, we did in the app.js. Name data. Yep, we have it here. So that's what we call this. So we're going to be passing this name data to our body so we can see it. And the way we do that is by saying body name data is equal to name data. Cool. Why do we have two? Body. Okay. Header. Oh. All right. So nothing's going to show right now because we didn't give anything in the body any logic. We just have the body there. So far what we've done is we have assigned state variables. We pass the state variables into these fields. And what we want to do now is say, let's pass this information in app.js. So we're just going to pass this information, this name data information into our body. So before we go ahead and do this, let's go into sources and create a new folder called images. And within images, we're just gonna, let's come here. So basically, if you go into Google and just say avatar icon PNG, it's going to show you a bunch of these. You can just go ahead and grab whichever one you want. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in the one I used. So I'm just going to open up my my actual one and put this icon into images. Just put this back down there. So my icon looks like this. So I'm just going to go ahead and say import icon from images / icon dot png. And this icon is what's going to be used for every single individual in here. Let's just clear that out for every single individual in there. So in order to create this one, remember over here, we passed this, where is it? Name data. Yeah, we passed this state in here into body. We just passed it in there this way. So now in order to use it, we're going to come in here and we're going to say name data. Cool. And we're going to say const is equal to, we're just going to grab basically everything we're going to be using. We're going to be using query, department, assignment, and position. I'm going to say use context. Okay, it's not an equal. There we go. Yep, there we go. Okay, so when we do that, now we're able to use these all over again. So in order to now get whatever we put in rendered here, remember, first we have to see if name data actually does anything. So let's go to console and let's say console.log name data. Yep. So as you can see, actually it says let's try that again. Because it's asynchronous, so it might be running twice. There we go. So it does work. It's just because it's asynchronous. It's taking a while. That's why we're going to have that loading up. So that means this is actually working. So what we're going to do now, let's just take this out. So we're going to keep running it. Let's close this out. What we're going to do now is we're going to come over to our return. And we're going to say, let's do this first. Cool. And then we're going to say div class name width full, height full, medium. We're going to say grid. So we want this on a grid. Grid, three columns. And we want on a medium screen, we want the gap to be 4. There we go, 4. And now to write in our logic, we're going to say name data. So we're grabbing this name data and we're saying dot filter. So this question mark saying if there's a name data, so if it's available, we're going to filter it and we're going to use data as our variable. And we're going to say if query is equal to nothing. So basically, if this query, if employee name is empty as is right now, basically it's an empty string, then we want to return true. Name data dot filter is not a function. So why is it saying that? Let's say name data question mark dot filter data. Okay, I think I know why. It's because we didn't return it. If query is equal to empty string, then return true. Else if, so let's look at this data really quickly. So as you can see, we have last name and first name, and we want both. So we're going to say else if const full name is equal to this. So data dot first name and the last name. So data dot first name, yep, and data dot last name. So that way we're able to filter through the full name. Let's see, else if, actually we don't even need the if, we just say else. And this should be this, not this. Yep, there we go. Else, first name, else const full name is equal to this. We want to return full name. So if there's a full name, to lowercase dot includes query. So what this is saying is, okay, so all that's going to fix itself later. So what this is saying is, if we have name data, so we have all this data, dot filter, so we're filtering through this data, which we're going to just call it data here. If query, meaning if whatever we wrote in the search field is an empty, well, if whatever is in the search field is empty, meaning the search field is empty, we're returning true. We're returning every single data within name data. We're returning or else, well, else, not or, else, we're going to look for the full name that pertains to what we wrote and return the full name to lowercase. So meaning anytime we type in there, we're going to be using lowercase. We're changing every single thing in this. We're changing every last name and first name to lowercase, just so it's easier for us, so we don't have to worry about casing. So everything's changed to lowercase, and it's going to include whatever we typed in, the value at which we typed in, which is the query, what we're querying it for. That's what this is asking for. So now we're gonna, so it's not gonna show now because we're not we've not mapped it out yet. So we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna say after the here, nope, not after there. So return true, query. There we go. So we're just gonna cool. And now we're gonna say dot filter again, data. This should be this. Data. Awesome. And it should say if department. So now we're working with department is equal to an empty string. Then we want to return true. So if our department, so let's use this. So if our, so we're working with this department. So if department's an empty string, then we want to render all of the data. So all of this, that's what we're saying right now. So return true. So, okay. So where are we? We're saying return true. Else, wait, what's, so blah, blah, blah. So if, so return true, where are we? What are we? So if data, then return true. So we're missing one here. Cool. So return true, else return data dot department. So if you look in here, as you can see, there's a department. So it's either going to be product or human resource. So this is the department. So department to lowercase, the same thing we have up here, dot includes, except this time it's not going to include query. It's going to include department because that's what we're searching in. So department. Awesome. And we should have one more. So now we're going to filter again by one more. And this filter is going to say data. And as you guys guessed it, this is going to be if assignment is equal to product. So here we're going to say if assignment is equal to product, then we're going to return data dot department to lowercase includes product. Yeah, includes product. Else if assignment is equal to resource, then, and where I'm getting these product and resource from is if you go back to header, remember that's what we oh, actually no, I did not put that in there. So the value here should be department. It's not in, it should be department, should be product, and the value here should be resource. So department, product, resource. So let's make sure we have that. So we have department, where's Yep. Okay. Department, assignment, position. Cool. So that's what we have here. So assignment is product, resource, and we're gonna say return data. Let's just copy this because it's the same thing. We're just changing one thing. And this should be resource. And so now we have product, resource, and what if we just have department? We're gonna say if what for the remaining stuff, for the remaining option, we're gonna say return true. Cool. So now we're gonna say dot map data, and we're gonna have div class name with full height full, padding 5, text center, and we have to give it a key because let's just do this first. Yep, we have to give it a key because React wants that. So we're going to say data.id. So as you can see, every single thing here should have an ID. Yep, every single one has an ID. So each image that's rendered or each data that's rendered is going to be pertaining to the ID. And we're going to say image class name 50 women, and wait, is that the height or the width? Let's just say height, and the width is full. Cool. And the source is gonna be icon. So I don't know why it's still saying error. So we're gonna have to look into that icon. Okay, so now what is our error? Name.filter is not a function. So let's see, let's scroll up here. It's not a function. Okay, so let's head back over here and data. Okay, that's why. So here, this should be an array of objects. There we go. Yeah, so it should be an array of objects. Cool. So there's no more. Yeah, because it's not a string. It's an array. It's a bunch of objects. It's an array of objects. Okay, so let's just make sure that's good. Let's make sure nothing else is bad. Let's see. Assignment. The part query assignment position. I don't know why I can't spell. Assignment. Assignment. Let's see. Oh, we never used position actually. Okay, so let's go over before we do this. Let's filter with position. So data, and we're gonna say if position, so basically the same thing, if position is equal to an empty string, then we return true. else, what's wrong with this? Okay, this should be over here. Yeah, else we're gonna say return data dot, let's see, what is the, can we console log again? Name data, what now? Cool. So let's see, job title, there it is. So we're gonna say return data dot job, where is it, job title, to lowercase dot includes position. There it is. Okay, so return data to that position. There we go. So let's see, is anything rendered yet? Nope. So let's finish this out. So this should actually start rendering by now. I don't know why it's not doing so. So let's see why it's not rendering. So let's just do this first. What we have to do is take out this extra body. Okay, and then in the body, we forgot to return this. Cool. So that should work. So we forgot to put return. So that works. And so all, just make sure everything's spelled correctly and you have the value assigned to the select. So I forgot to put the values with the option. So you make sure you have the value and then make sure everything's spelled correctly, the values, take out the extra body, and just make sure the values correspond to these over here. And that's pretty much it. So you have this. Now we want to keep going and building onto this. So what we're going to say is before this div, we're going to go to h1 and say for every single one of them, we're going to have data.firstName and data.last name. Cool. And that's going to give the name here. So let's just put a space in between that. And there you go. And then we're going to do, let's just do this. We're going to say data dot address, data dot job title, and data dot department. So we can get rid of all this, get rid of all this. Cool. As you can see, all this is there. So now let's test to see if this actually works. So let's filter everything by human resources. And as you can see, everything's been filtered by human resources. Let's filter by product. Everything's being filtered by product. That's a lot of product. So, but let's go to department. As you can see, everything within product and human resource and product shows when you put department. If I say human position, department, human. Oh, that is all the human resources. So there's just a lot more product. So position, as you can see, there's developer. So if I put developer, it shows every single developer, mobile and web developer. And now for the employee name, let's just take Jacobs, for example. So now, as you can see, everything's in lowercase that I type in, and as you can see, it works. If I were to put this in uppercase, it's not going to work because we specified here that everything should be to lowercase. So for position, if I say tester, everything tester shows up. So this is pretty much the way you set up a multi-filtering application. You can go ahead and add whatever like fills you want to it and spice it up as much as you want. But let me know what you guys think about this application, or what you guys think about this video. You just go ahead and leave the comment in the comment section. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.